Go ahead.
Okay. The following is the 669th Arizona Racing Commission meeting taking place at 1110 West Washington, Suite 250, Phoenix, Arizona 85007 on Thursday, April 25th, 2019. Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Rory, for sticking me running this meeting.
You're very welcome.
Yeah. I'd like to call to order the 669th regular Arizona Racing Commission meeting of April 25th, 2019. Madam Secretary Sherry?
Yes. Hello.
You want to call roll?
Sure. Commissioner Coolidge? Not here. Commissioner Goray?
Here.
Okay. Commissioner Lawless?
Here.
Commissioner McClintock?
Here.
Okay. We've got 3 of the 4. We have a quorum.
Okay.
Oh, before we go, good morning, everyone. As a public service, please silence or turn all cell phones off. If you must take a call, please be courteous to those around you and take the conversation out into the hall. Thank you. And it is 10:01.
And on the record, Mr. Coolidge has just arrived.
Oh, he. Okay.
No problem.
Okay, 10:01.
Okay, I'm going to, due to a funeral that Tom Arthur has to go to, his brother-in-law, who is also a good friend of mine, his funeral mass is this morning, so I'm going to move B5 up to number 1 on the agenda. So I notice we have a bunch of people that want to speak on this issue. Buzz, you're first on the list.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Commissioner. Buzz Austin, Church Paradise. I'd like to
Buzz, could you speak into your microphone?
Okay.
People can hear.
Okay. I'd like to give you something I'd like to have passed out to the various members of the commission and to Mr. Casillas. I think there's more than you need here. Oh, shit, I gave it to you. One question that I'd like to ask, if I could, before I get started with my prepared remarks, and that's this: has the Racing Commission received written consent from the governor's office to pursue the consideration of this suggested new rule? Do you have something in writing from the governor's office?
Well, this is a big source of disappointment for me. I asked several months ago to go along a parallel path and submit a letter. I asked AIM to do it, and I'm not sure. I have not seen a copy of the letter or whether it was done or not. So,
Address.
Yeah, please address it.
This is Director Casillas. It was my decision not to send the letter. Mr. Fleming did compose the letter and emailed it to me. My decision was to hold on to it. As I stated in that previous meeting, that I didn't believe that 41-1005A was an exemption 5111. I explained what we used that exemption for regarding the RWA increase or decrease. I wanted to have meetings with the permittees to try to come to some reasonable consensus with the simulcasting issue. We had several meetings. The meetings were somewhat contentious at times, but we were making progress. And I did not want any of the permittees thinking that they didn't have to wholeheartedly participate in these meetings and make any efforts, thinking that they had another angle of accomplishing their goals. So it was my decision not to send it. I still stand by it. I will not send it. If the commission wants to send a letter to the governor, they can do so, but I will not do it.
If you'll take a look at the highlighted stuff on the second page of the executive order that you have in front of you, I've got it right there. It's highlighted right in front of you on the page, top page right there. If you read that highlighted language, you'll see that the governor has said that the state agency subject to this order shall not conduct any rulemaking, whether informal or formal, without the prior written approval of the governor's office. And you don't have that, and I didn't think you did. So the first thing, the first order of business, I would request that somebody make a motion that this be removed from the agenda and go back on the agenda when the appropriate thing's done. It is improper. It is a violation of the executive order for you guys to be considering this, even informally. So I would ask somebody to make a motion to remove this item from the agenda for today and revisit it at a later time. It is up to the governor to decide whether the exemption that the Commissioner was just talking about, Chairman was just talking about, the Director, it's the governor's prerogative in their rulemaking progress. It's their prerogative to determine whether exemptions will be, if this will be subject to an exemption or not, be that as it may be. Having this on the agenda today is in violation of the governor's executive order. And I would suggest that somebody make a motion to remove it from the agenda, and let's take it up when you're in line. Because right now you are in violation of the governor's executive order.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we go into executive session, get some guidance on this matter.
Second.
I'll second that.
Mr. Coolidge beat you to it.
McClintock. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
You want to read the what?
Oh, he's got.
All members of the public must leave the room and take all materials such as briefcases and backpacks with them, and only persons whose presence is reasonably necessary for the commission to carry out executive session responsibilities may remain.
Okay. We need to do a roll call on that motion, please.
Okay.
Commissioner Coolidge?
Yes.
Commissioner Garay?
Yes.
Yes. Commissioner Lawless?
Yes.
Commissioner McClintock?
Yes.
Okay. The time is 10:07.
The first open
Open
session
session.
has been adjourned.
The following is the second open session of the 669th Arizona Racing Commission meeting taking place at 1110 West Washington, Suite 250, Phoenix, Arizona 85007 on Thursday, April 25th, 2019. This meeting is convened at...
Go ahead. The time is 10:29. We'll do a roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Coolidge? Here. Commissioner Garay?
Here.
Commissioner Lawless?
Here.
And Commissioner McClintock?
Here.
Okay. Again, please silence or turn all cell phones off. If you must take a call, please be courteous to those around you and take the conversation out into the hall. Thank you.
Okay. The next speaker on item B5 is Kevin.
Morning.
Good morning.
I'm Kevin Eckelberg. I'm an owner and trainer. This, what you're fixing to do today or not do, I'm sure hopefully we are, really depends on if we're going to have live racing in Arizona anymore. We have to have year-round racing to survive. If not, tell me, I'll leave. I've told you that before. I'm hanging on this summer, I'm going to run Arizona Downs. But without some help, Arizona Downs isn't going to survive. They need to have equal playing field. So far, turf is not sharing any of that deal. We had one OTB system for years when I was running. Arizona Downs doesn't, or Turf Paradise doesn't want that anymore. Arizona Downs would be happy with that. I think Monarch would be happy with that. I think everybody would go into one system where Turf Paradise has it during the winter. Arizona Downs has it during the summer. It's up to you guys. We wait a long time on this decision, and if you're not, tell me. I'll be glad to move my outfit and go somewhere else. And all my owners are with me. We're here because we want to be in Arizona. We live here. I've been here for 40 years. But this is a very important deal. And I don't believe that without this, year-round, Arizona Downs can survive. Thank you.
Leroy, you're up.
Leroy Gussman, Executive Director of the HBPA. Commissioners Rudy Casillas. I guess I kind of go along with what Kevin says. I know there's several people going to get up here and talk, so I won't get into this a lot. But one thing about this rule, and you're going to hear me talk about this on D4, this rule that the governor has in place is really handicapping this industry. This industry is changing, and there's several things the state of Arizona is way behind in when it comes to the racing rules that are nationwide. There's a big effort in trying to keep the rules the same in every state. And when I got to this state, I sat down with Greg and went through several of these I saw that weren't being done. And it all came back to this rule. And I can see where some places this rule is a good thing. But when it comes to the racing industry, we need to stay up with the rest of the country. And with that, I will go along with what Kevin said. We need year-round racing if racing is going to survive in Arizona. Thank you.
Thank you, Leroy. Lloyd.
Commissioners, Director Casillas, staff, my name is Lloyd Yoder. I'm with the HBPA and represent the horsemen. And I don't know, I'm so disheartened. I mean, it's just a constant battle, and we've been doing battle for this crap for ever since I've been in the business. I've been in it since '83, and I don't know how we get around some of this stuff with everybody throwing up a roadblock every time we try to get something positive for the industry. It might hurt Turf Paradise for a period of time. May not. It's proven not to so far with the OTBs that Arizona Downs has opened. But like my predecessors said, without year-round racing, we've made it for the last 9 years, but it's been a struggle, and we're going downhill, and we're going down further. So it's just a matter of time to whether Jerry Sims pulls out and closes Turf Paradises or sells it or moves on, or the horsemen pull out. And it's down to that this year. So if you want to continue to destroy, not necessarily you, but if it fits, if the shoe fits, wear it. But if you continue to want to destroy horse racing in Arizona, continue on this path. Something has to be done. I don't know how to get to the governor. We can't get to him through the department. We can't get to him through the legislature. We can't get to him through his office. But somehow I'm going to get through to him. I don't know how, but I'm going to get through to him. And like I say, I'm so disheartened, it's just pathetic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tommy?
Morning, Director, Commissioners, Tom Author, Arizona Downs. First, thank you very much for the consideration on my time constraints. But we got a bunch of investors that have $11 million of trust in us, and it's important for me to make sure it's my responsibility to make sure that I look after that. So, but thank you very much. I had a nice conversation with Scott DeRudy from Monarch Tuesday, very cordial. We're not his favorite people in the world. I think we're a pain in the neck to them at a time when they don't need any more pains in the neck. But we had a really good conversation. He's a gentleman. He's a smart, bright guy. He understands our situation. We just simply have a difference of opinion on what's the right business move. But I told him that I think in a couple of years we're probably going to be his best client, and he's going to like us. It reminds me of one of my favorite sayings by Abe Lincoln. That's, I don't like that man, I need to get to know him better. So I think once he gets to know us and we get to know him, I think things will work out fine. So I really appreciate the support we've gotten from the horsemen. This is, after all, their business. They're unanimously in favor of this. I think, and I don't want to put words in Turf's mouth, but I think their point that this will result in Monarch taking the signal out of the state, it almost feels to me like they're challenging them to do that. I got no indication of that in my conversation with Mr. DeRudy. They've mentioned how Frank Stronach is a tough guy, a difficult man, and you're not going to tell him what to do. Well, as of his speech at Santa Anita on Tuesday, he's not even involved in the management by his own admission. So I just think that it's time. Anyway, the old saying, keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. So we keep kicking this down the road, it's just going to get stalled out. We'll make it work. It'll grow the industry. We'll be responsible with how we open OTBs. We have so far. I've got example after example. The biggest concern that they had last time was we were opening at the Italian American Club, which was 0.7 of a mile away from Gallagher's. Gallagher's last month did $299,000 in handle. The previous year they were $113,000. So maybe an aberration, but it certainly didn't hurt them for us to be that close. And it's the same thing all the way down the line. And Prescott, the one spot where we both have this signal, the handle's up. It was up 130,000 on a base of, I think, 189 the year before. So again, I just don't understand the concern, the assumption that if you enact this rule, Monarch will pull the signal, and then the further assumption that if they do pull the signal, it'll destroy the industry. Again, as a little example, we did not have Santa Anita all of March. The handle was up $1 million over 2018. And that's the same thing as Monarch taking the signal. They took their jewel away, and again, the handle was up $1 million. Turfs alone was up 800. So, I hope they don't take it. I think they're responsible businessmen. I think they're smart guys. We don't have any, it's just a business decision. There's no animus between us. So, saying that, I would hope you guys see fit to go forward and pass this rule, and let's get on with making this industry successful. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
I hadn't finished my remarks earlier.
Go ahead, Buzz.
I think everybody, Mr. Director, Commissioners, Buzz Olson for Turf, I think everybody has expressed their desires and expectations and anticipations well, and I will revisit that. I just want to make 2 points. Number one, and I think I've given you a briefing on this before today, there's really very little question in my mind. The proposed rule, if you could get the consent of the governor's office to go ahead with it, is probably unconstitutional. And in terms of the way you would be fixing, what you're saying is, the new rule says if you sell the one, you must sell it all at the same price. That is one of the real problems constitutionally that you're going with the rule. But be that as it may be, what you should do before you make the decision, probably before I think maybe before you try to get the consent from the governor, you ought to talk to Scott DeRudy. Now, I think Commissioner Coolidge was in a conversation last time Scott DeRudy was here, right back there, where Boss is sitting right back over there. I was talking to Scott DeRudy. I think Mr. Coolidge, Commissioner Coolidge was there, Mr. Sims, and a couple of other people were standing there and witnessed the conversation. And Scott DeRudy was leading the conversation. I was not. And Scott DeRudy said, in the company of all those folks, he says, I'm telling you something. He said, if I'm given a choice that I have to serve all or serve none, I'm choosing none. So I am not going to send the signal to Arizona if they pass this rule. And it wasn't any. I didn't get all the details, but it wasn't just his feelings about the people he's had dealings with at Arizona Downs, I would ask you to somebody call him and talk to him and get the whole story on that. It was more about concern about this same thing happening in other jurisdictions. And I don't understand the industry like Scott Drury does. I don't understand what he was talking, but that's what he was saying. He said, my business cannot tolerate a rule like this being passed anywhere, and Arizona doesn't mean nearly enough to me to cause me to want to come here if a rule like that is passed. So you really ought to contact Scott Drury and talk to him. He's really involved in this. He's going to make the decision and see what he tells you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion?
Well, as bad as I want Arizona Downs to have this signal, it appears that we don't have the authority as a racing commission to pass this rule. This is obviously a legislative matter, has been in every other jurisdiction that has a rule like this. So I think basically our hands are tied. I mean, we'd like to help, but we legally can't help. So that's at least my take based on what I've heard regarding the issue. So I don't know what we can do. I mean, we're kind of in the same boat with everybody else. We want to make it work, but we can't.
And I agree with you, Jay. I don't think we have the power to do it, and I think this is something that needs to come from the legislature to give the power to do something like this. I just don't think we could do this. Even if we did, I don't think it would stand up in court.
Can I say something real quickly? Sure. Tom Author of Arizona Downs. I appreciate what you're saying. But at the very least, can we get something to say we would support this type of legislation? So that at least we can go to people and not look like we're out on an island and we've come up with this absurd rule that incidentally doesn't seem to bother Scott Drury and the many other states that have it. So if we could get that, if that's the best we could do, that's the best we could do. And I don't really know why there'd be a problem with you folks saying, we can't pass, but we just want the legislator to know that we think this is a prudent thing for the state of Arizona to do, something to that extent. Is that possible?
Well, if you recall, a couple meetings ago, I asked to go down a dual path and ask for approval. It didn't happen. I'm frustrated. I want you guys to succeed. I'm convinced at this point we can't pass the rule, but I'm not convinced that we can't propose it. Just tell the governor that we agree with it in principle, and would he mind us making the rule? I mean, if he says no, he says no.
Right.
But I wanted to do that several months ago, and here we are, you're a month from opening, and you guys don't have an answer, and that appalls me.
I completely agree, and I'm not surprised this is the outcome, but it would be nice if we could get something from the experts in the industry that says we support this rule. We can't pass it, we can't, if we could get that and we could take that to the governor and we could take that to the legislature, I think that would be helpful to us. If you don't agree with it, I'm not asking you to say something you don't agree with, but if it's something that you think would be a good idea, and I think you guys think it would be a good idea, because it would be a good idea, if we could just somehow get that memorialized some way, and we could then have that as a support for what we do moving forward. So I would ask that we do something like that.
No, I'd just say I would support the legislation. I obviously think it's a great idea. It's just not our place to make the rule.
Well, we don't necessarily disagree with that, but we need something, and that's exactly what I would be looking for. If we could get that from, if there's anybody that doesn't think it's a good idea, then they can speak out. But
yeah, I'd be happy. I don't know if you want a joint letter or individual letters.
I think a joint letter saying from the commission, I'll even write it.
I'll have to check my spelling, but
Good Brophy grad like you has to be a good writer.
Father Renna would roll in his grave if I misspelled something. I mean, is it, Commissioner Coolidge, are you comfortable with that, or?
I'm at this point, I would not be comfortable with it, only because I'm not as familiar with the current. I'm not as familiar with the current language of the bill, so at this time, I would not be comfortable with it.
It would be more of a general idea of, if you send a signal to the state of Arizona, you need to, well, we'll keep working on you.
Well, I know the bill has changed in writing over the past 3 weeks, so I would need to be better accustomed before I sign.
Well, appreciate your candor. Commissioner Gorey, how do you feel about that?
I would be the same. I have not read the bill lately, so I would want to look through it myself first before I agreed that it was a good bill. Or
what I would say is leverage. Take what you have on your NIRA letter. Mm-hmm. You clearly already have a room full of stakeholders here that would be impactful to send to your local legislators and urge them to do what they feel is right.
Can I have Brian come up, or Lonnie? He's better at answering this question than I am.
Brian Murray for Arizona Downs. I think the greater point goes back to what Vice Chairman Lawless was getting to, which is we'd welcome you sending a letter to the governor exploring the opportunity to pass a rule. I mean, I think we have to take this in order. If you don't take that first step, that is the process of rulemaking from a commission such as yourself. So I think before we talk about a legislative pathway, the idea that the vice chair was putting forward of sending the letter to the governor from the commission seeking his authority to pass the rules is the next logical step, in my opinion.
Okay, I wonder if we could have Aiden address the legislation that's...
Well, we have another speaker first. Okay.
Good morning, commissioners, director, staff. For the record, my name is Kelsey Lundy, and I'm representing Turf Paradise. I think that there has been one thing that has been lost in a lot of these conversations, which is that Director Casillas and Commissioner Coolidge have been undertaking stakeholder meetings so that we can find resolution that's agreeable for all three tracks and the horsemen. And while I understand that everybody wants year-round racing, Turf Paradise wants year-round racing. Turf Paradise wants to see racing grow and succeed in Arizona. But if in fact Monarch is not going to give the signal if this rule or legislation is passed dictating to them who they can and can't do business with, then you may not have year-round racing anymore, because that is going to be a significant financial detriment to Turf Paradise. So we need to balance the pros and cons of how we are doing this. And based on my conversations with legislators down at the Capitol, they don't like being put in the middle any more than you all like being put in the middle. The governor's office doesn't like being put in the middle any more than you like being put in the middle. So we have made a commitment to continue to sit down to try to find consensus that works for all of the tracks. And I know that people keep referring to these other states where they have something similar to this, but I would remind you that Scott DeRudy testified at the last meeting saying no other state has a successful competing OTB networks. They all complement each other. And that's kind of what these three tracks need to sit down and work out, is how do you have OTB systems that are run by the individual tracks that are going to succeed, not basically compete against each other so that you don't have a successful one. And I believe that the time and effort can be made and should be made to continue to put them all in a room and have them come up with an agreement that we can then take to the legislature. They're not getting out anytime soon, so that we can update the statute and codify the agreement. But I can tell you that even if you were to simply send a letter to the legislature, whether you support it or not, they're going to be put in the exact same position that you are. So Turf Paradise's position is that the three tracks need to continue to sit down to negotiate, to come up with something that is acceptable to the tracks and acceptable to the signal companies, I guess in this case, specifically Monarch. So we obviously would oppose the commission sending a letter supporting this rule or this legislation, simply because Turf Paradise is concerned that rolling the dice on whether or not Monarch will stay is too high of a price for our track and would put into jeopardy our ability to continue to race in Arizona. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, this is Commissioner Gray. I somewhat agree. I think we have these negotiations going on, and some of what I've heard is there's been some positive and some negative, but I think it's leaning more positive now. I'm just afraid some of those in the negotiation are just kind of open that something else will happen and we don't have to completely go through with the negotiation. And I would personally encourage continue these discussions with Chuck and Rudy, and let's get it done amongst ourselves and quit putting everyone in the middle. Let's do it ourselves. Let's show the community we can do this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Last comment, then I have to go.
Yeah.
Tom Author, Arizona Downs. Despite Rudy's, Chuck's efforts, very little progress has been made during these stakeholder meetings. There is no consequence to Turf Paradise prolonging the present situation. The status quo is a victory for them. We've got to bring Turf Paradise to a point where there are consequences to the way things are going right now. The idea that we're making a lot of progress is, frankly, in my opinion, I've been in every meeting, is as much as we may want to, I don't see it happening. Secondly, Scott DeRudy's approach, he said, I would like to see you do what the rest of the country does, which is one OTB system. We've proposed that and proposed that and proposed that, and Turf simply refuses to do that. So it's not like we're not trying to accommodate Monarch, or we're not trying to accommodate what the law should be. We've proposed that, they simply won't do it, and we've even agreed to postpone it for a couple of years so that we can get the handle to the point where they don't get hurt. They're concerned they're going to get hurt. So with that being said, I appreciate your efforts, but I just think that the right answer here is to pass this rule, or at least support it, and hopefully someday move towards the solution that the rest of the country has come up with, which is one network. I'll give you an example. Illinois, the host track, which is the track that's having a meet, gets the signal. They wheel it to all the other OTBs and tracks, and they split it based upon essentially the amount that their meet is open. So that's all we're saying is the signal sent into the host track, which if it's Prescott, which is Arizona Downs, we would then wheel it out to every other permittee and every other track, and we would get the handle based upon a ratio, the number of days we run as a percent of the overall race days. And when Turf has it, they do the same thing. So, and for their concern that we'd suddenly be taking 30% of the handle, we would postpone in putting this in place until they run in October of 20. So, but again, that's handle they inherited when Yavapai Downs closed down. So I don't think it's unreasonable. And in their defense, maybe nobody told them that if another track reopened, they'd have to go back to the old way. But I think that's the only way to answer this question. So thank you.
Thank you, Tom. So go ahead, Jerry. Or did you have a question?
No, I'd just like to get started. Jerry Sims for Paradise. The discussions that we've been having have been much more successful, I believe, in the last meeting. The simple reason of why one one circuit does not work, where each one takes part, is we need the summer. A lot's happened in 9 years since that track ran. We have a lot more casinos and a lot more competition, and our revenue has dropped. And if we don't have the summer to gather money, because we overpaid purses. Last year we overpaid $600,000. It'll probably be somewhere around $500,000. The Turf overpays them and gets the money back in the summer. Then we have to save up about $2.5 million at a minimum to be able to start our meet. If we didn't have that $2.5 million from the summer, we could not run our meet. And the $500,000 for the overpayment. So it's really $3 million shortfall. And just so you know, we used to give out $14 million, and now we give out $10 million. not too dissimilar in the numbers. So it's easy for someone to say, gee, you just make that change and everything's rosy. Or we do it starting in October, I think we said of 20. First, they have to go out and create that revenue because they're coming to us now with almost zero to put on the table, but want to take a third of our business. We can't do that. We'll be gone. As it is, it's very unsuccessful. If we did that, so the reason I hold firm to that position is it's just we'd have to just close the doors. So it's not as simple as, well, if they would just agree. We have gotten close with some other ideas. In particular, the transfer agreement that the director came up with. And he's asked me to show flexibility, and I went in and showed a considerable amount of flexibility. But I think that maybe the other side feels there's other ways to go, and maybe if they don't have an alternative, they'll make a deal here at the table in our next meeting. So anyway, I wanted to just address those couple of things. Thank you for giving me the time.
Joe Jackson, Arizona Downs. I just discussed with Tom on his way out. What Tom had proposed, which is the way they do it, I think he used Illinois, it would start October 20th. And what Mr. Sims has indicated that we're not bringing anything in. We get a running start to I guess I should say, give us a chance to not bring anything in. If Monarch agrees to the single system, one system, we got a whole lot of time to build up our part of what we're bringing to the table. Then, from that point, when it kicks in October of 20, it's basically like Tom explained. We're splitting based on a pro rata basis that is tied to the number of race days in a given year. I just wanted to clarify that. It's not like we're going to be sitting back watching TV for the next year and a half or so. Give us a chance to build up the system. Thanks. Bob, you have to sign the sheet.
I will.
You can go ahead and address while you're waiting. You can go ahead.
Okay.
Please.
Bob Hutchin, HPVA. I'll be very short and brief. Two things. Churchill Downs doesn't have a problem with it. Neither does NYRA. So why does Monarch? As far as it just seems odd to me. The other thing is, we talk about Monarch like they're the Michael Jordan of racing. And these people have got problems over at Santa Anita, and I don't hold them in as high esteem as everybody else seems to. As far as their business, their family fighting, all the other things that go along with it, the things that are in the media. Frank Stronach getting up over in Arcadia last Tuesday, and now they're taking their fight public. I just don't know why we want to hitch our trailer to these people. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks.
This is Commissioner Gorain. With that said, one of the questions I've had regarding this whole thing is, why does Arizona Downs need the Monarch signal? Why can't they just carry the Churchill?
Yes, please.
Same raising turkey.
Equal playing field.
Joe Jackson, Arizona Downs. Kevin just said we need a level playing field. Tom just called in and wanted me to say that the horsemen are willing to take a chance on this. We are. Everybody seems to agree that the industry is we've got a sick patient in Arizona. It seems like a lot of people want the patient to get better, but not everybody. So that's I think it boils down. It's the horseman's money. If they have faith in it, hopefully they have faith in us. Let's do it. Thanks. Quick.
I don't know. Yeah, I was hoping Aiden could give us an update on the current legislation that's in the House or Senate, in the legislature right now.
I'm on the agenda. Do you want me to go now, or?
Yeah, he's number C3.
Might as well.
Might as well. It's relevant to the.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Aiden Fleming with the Arizona Department of Gaming. Just to answer your earlier question, there isn't a bill currently out there that has that simulcast language that has been proposed earlier that's carrying it through. It would have to be an amendment onto an existing bill. Currently, we are on day 102 of the legislative session, with a total of 1,289 bills posted. 162 bills passed, 122 bills signed, and 3 bills vetoed. One of the bills vetoed was 2576, relating to the Arizona Breeders' Awards. That issue has been negotiated and is being taken up, so we might see a return with some language. The remaining bills are the striker to 2547. The bill would basically allow Rito Racetrack an avenue to open off-track betting sites. That bill is waiting for a vote on the floor. The next bill is Senate Bill 1144, which would basically grant due process rights to a licensee who has been ejected from a racing enclosure. This is one I've talked about previously. The bill was approved by House Rules on the 9th and is awaiting also a vote on the floor. As you can kind of see, these bills have slowed down over the last month as negotiations heat up. There's a strike everything amendment to 1464, which is a new striker that impacts the Division of Racing's licensing protocols. Currently, the division must deny an applicant seeking a license if the applicant has been convicted of a felony in the past 5 years. The bill would allow the racing division the discretion to determine if the applicant can be granted a license based on the circumstance. The bill may see further amendments and is, again, waiting for a vote on the House floor. But that was a new striker that had come up since I last spoke to you. And finally, HB 2569 was signed into law. This is the licensing reciprocity bill you may have seen in the news. Essentially, it allows all state agencies reciprocity with other states through licensing. That said, when we take a look at horse racing licensing, it would not lower any of our standards. There's exceptions in the bill that basically take into account background checks, fingerprint clearance cards. Those will still exist in our current system. We actually have a meeting with the racing division later today to talk about any particulars. If any issues do come up, I'd be happy to bring them back to you next month and give you an update on that. Other than that, those are the only 4 that are still moving through that are waiting votes and that are alive. Just as a reminder, we can always see amendments late and movements still. So to be determined, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So there's no bill that addresses simulcast waiting?
Not at the current, Mr. Chair, Commissioner, not at the current moment. There have been previous bills that carried that language. 2731 was the original Shope bill, I think, that I spoke about earlier. That one was held in committee, and currently there is not a bill that carries that language.
What are the odds of getting one in this session?
Mr. Chair, I wish I could bring out my magic 8-ball and tell you that. I don't know. It really is dependent on various factors. Basically, the palatability of the issue with the legislature is the heart of it. That would be dependent upon the parties basically finding an open bill that they could then get the sponsor on and get the permission of the sponsor to add it. So typically, as a bill moves through, the sponsor has control over that. You can ask the sponsor if you can tack on language to his bill or her bill, and that is yet to be done in any of the existing bills. The other issue is that the bill has to be germane, so the amendment has to be germane to the topic. So you can't strike a racing issue onto a healthcare topic, for example. So with this late in the legislative process, the bills available as vehicles are narrowing.
Any other questions for Aiden?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Aiden.
I'd like to get Arizona Downs lobbyist back up here, and I don't have the sheet in front of me, so I forget your name.
Brian Murray for Arizona Downs.
Yeah, is there anything being done?
At the current moment, there are no floor amendments that are circulating, and as Ethan said, there are limited vehicles that are still out there.
Are you planning on going forward in this session?
Well, we certainly hope to move forward, but right now, clearly it's a difficult position. I mean, we're talking about 4 vehicle bills that are out there, and lots of different competing concerns. The breeders' bill that the governor vetoed is likely to be amended until 1144, which really only leaves 2547 as the last vehicle. And as of right now, the sponsor does not want it with an amendment. He wants it run clean.
So there's no chance this legislature?
Well, we never say never.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Further discussion?
I've said all I can say.
Everybody knows how I feel, so. I'm with the horsemen, but I agree with Commissioner McClintock that our hands are tied on passing something, but I'd sure like to get something requesting the legislature to support our horsemen, and so I'm not sure we can do anything other than, again, I'd make the request that we start the dual path and ask if we can submit a proposed rule that would say that Monarch has to give us a level playing field. I know I'm probably in the minority on this, but I've been beating the table for several months now, and obviously there's no ears out there to hear. Wait, Lloyd put his hand up first, and then you can come back up, Joe.
Lloyd Joseph, Arizona horseman, owner, breeder. I guess I don't get it. I mean, I don't understand. The director said that he will not send the governor a letter. It's been recommended, if I'm correct, that you guys not send a letter to the governor. How do we as horsemen and citizens of this state and of this industry get some action done? I mean, we can sit here and kick the can down the road as we have been for the last 20 years. For whatever reason, somebody's afraid they're going to get hurt in this business, and the horsemen have been hurt and are continuing to be hurt. Jerry says his business is down. Mr. Sims says his business is down. Yavapai, or Arizona's down, says that they can't make it unless they get this Monarch signal. I don't understand how Monarch, like Hutton said, is such a great influence on this industry when they're an outside the state industry telling us what we can and can't do in our own state. I don't get it. Personally, not from the horsemen, but personally, I'm willing to take the chance to tell Monarch to take a hike or get in the game. And I think that should be made clear to them, but maybe the horsemen don't want to do that. But if I get the opportunity, I damn sure will. And somehow, and I stated earlier, somehow, I'm going to find a way to get to the governor. I don't know how it's going to be. You guys can help and cooperate, or you can decline to turn your back on the issue. And I don't mean you personally, but like I said earlier, if the shoe fits, wear it. And Mr. Vice Chair Lawless, I agree with you. Something needs to be done, and something needs to be done now. Not next session, not next year, not next month. It needs to be done now, or none of us are going to be here.
I agree.
And a lot of people may not care. Apparently, that's a lot of people don't care. Thank you very much.
Joe's next, Kevin, and then you could come up.
This is Commissioner Gorek. Can I speak just real quick?
Sure. Yeah.
With what was just mentioned, everybody, I know Arizona Downs, Turf, all the tracks, they all have lobbyists. And the lobbyists do go up and lobby the governor's office. And I'm just wanting to know, have any of them talked to the governor's office to lobby him to get us permission to do this? They have direct access via the lobby. We don't have a lobby to go talk to the governor. So I'd really like to know, have you guys lobbied the governor to work with us on this?
Chairman Gray.
Regarding that.
Chairman Gray, Lloyd Yother again. I don't know how to put this, but other than I'm just a redneck, hillbilly, country boy that don't, I say what the hell's on my mind. Lobbyists, and excuse me guys, some of them are my best friends. They're like used car salesmen. They can go to the governor's office, but nobody's listening. It's got to come from one of the agencies or one of the departments or one of the commissions. And that's my thoughts. Thank you.
Joe is yielding.
Mr. Vice Chair, and to answer the chairman's question, Brian Murphy, Arizona Downs, we did have several conversations with the governor's office, but I don't want to speak for the governor's office, but the essence of the conversation was we can't comment on something that hasn't been sent to us. And so absent legislation being sent up there, or absent you taking some sort of affirmative action by sending a letter to the ninth floor, what are they supposed to comment on? And I think that's kind of the scenario that we've been seeing over the last 4 or 5 months, chicken or the egg. At some level, I see where their point is. I certainly understand what you all have said earlier, but unless somebody takes action, we're just going to sit around here and say the same things over and over and over like we have been for months. Thank you.
Precisely my point. Joe?
Thank you. Joe Jackson again, Arizona Downs. I just from a personal point, several times today, it's been when we've discussed this proposed rule, this proposed legislation, etc. I don't mean to sound like I'm picking fly poop out of the pepper, but what we're discussing is not specific to Monarch. In my own office, when the subject comes up, I said it's a signal. We're talking about any signal, not just Monarch, any signal that comes into the state. That's what we're trying to achieve. It's available to everyone, or it's available to no one. And I hate to always attach it to Monarch because it sounds like we're picking them out of the fray. But that's all I wanted to clarify. It's a signal. It's not tied to one particular provider.
Thanks, Joe. Kevin?
Thank you. Kevin Eckelberry again. I'm not sure all the commission knows, but in the Interstate Horse Racing Act, the horsemen have to approve the signal, sign up for it. We did not sign for the last Monarch signal. The director refused to honor, I guess, our Horse Racing Act. I don't know why. I guess he's got his reasons. We also asked him to send ask him to send a letter to the governor's office. He did not. We're on an equal playing field, I hope. I hope the horsemen are too, but we damn sure don't feel like we are right now. If you want us to go away, keep it up. We're going to go away. And we're not going to have no more racing in Arizona. It's up to you guys. The power's in your guys' table. If you want us to have it, fine. I've sat on a lot of boards, a lot of commissions. Seems like it's very one-sided to me. And I'll leave it at that.
The Buzz Alston for Turf Paradise, Director and Commissioners. We are scheduled to have binding arbitration with the horsemen in I think it's the 9th day of May on this issue that the gentleman was just talking about. In a nutshell, the HBPA has contracted away their right to withdraw or refuse consent to import those signals until the end of the race meet in 2021.
It's not true.
I'm
That's what
sorry.
the arbitration's for. Thank you.
Don't talk like that. Don't talk like that. I'm not going to talk like that to you, and I don't want you to talk like that.
I don't care if you talk to me at all.
I'm sorry.
Wait.
I don't understand you know.
Lloyd, it's
Lloyd,
okay.
you can come up after he's done if you want to rebut, but don't do it during his presentation.
And that is right. That's what the arbitration is about. But we have a contract with the horsemen, which at the end of the 20. I don't have that. I didn't speak for that right in front of me. But at the contract that was signed by the horsemen and turf in 2009 had a provision. It was a 2-year contract. Had a provision that turf could earn 5 more years on the contract by adding a certain number of OTBs, which they did, and that carried them up to the end of the race meet in 2016, I think, or 2017. I don't have my notes in front of me. In 2013, the horsemen and turf entered into an agreement that said it would last for 2 years, and turf could add 4 more years, could earn, the language of the contract is could earn 4 more years in the contract by opening a specified number of OTBs. It costs about $10,000 to $15,000 an OTB to open. So it's not a small investment to do that. They did it, and it's done. And it's done. And that's what the arbitration is about. They are wanting to refuse to renew the signal. We are saying that we had a contract with you. We had an agreement. We performed. You didn't. They are not in violation of their contract, as we sit here today, and neither is turf. And what they're talking about wanting to do is pull the signals. And they've contracted that right away, in my opinion. We'll see what the arbitration says. And why? Because they can't get Monarch to send signals to Arizona Downs. They are threatening, and they come over and talk about all this love of horse racing. They are threatening the Turf Paradise existence in order to try to get a benefit for Arizona Downs. We'll find out how it goes in arbitration. Thank you.
Did you want to rebut it now?
I have no idea what this is all about, other than the fact there is some dispute in the contract. We're set for arbitration, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to arbitrate it, and whatever the outcome may be, you'll know about it after the 9th of May. But that is not what we contracted away as our obligation to pull the signal, period. Thank you.
Thank you.
For the record, Steve Nolan, in the racing industry for 30 years, and thank you, commissioners and staff. I want to just address what Kevin Eichelberry said, that on April 14th, the horsemen sent a notice to the department, it's my understanding, that they no longer were granting their consent for the signal to be imported and exported. And according to, and I'll ask counsel here for the department, the Interstate Horse Racing Act of 1978 that was amended in the year 2000, Section 3004.A.1 demands that for signal to be transported must have horseman's consent. So with that, may I defer to a question to the Executive Director of the HPBA? On April 14th, Mr. Guessman, in fact, did you not sign the consent so that, as it stands right now, there could be a question of a federal statute being violated?
That's correct.
That is correct. So that needs to be addressed too. Are they, every day, it's been 8 days, are they breaking a federal statute of the Interstate Horse Racing Act? That needs to be addressed. And counsel, please help if you can give some guidance. First off, I've questioned some of the decisions because in some of the rules in the state, it says in order to do business in horse racing in the state, you must do license. Well, we obviously see Monarch is doing business in the state. Matter of fact, it's interfering with doing business in the state. And that's the part that is the problem here, is they're interfering with free competition the American way and to make it fair and not be monopolized. Now, they come with all sorts of excuses and legal, I don't know. All I know is I did confirm through the HPBA counsel, that it is their legal opinion that every day that that signal is coming in and going out, It is in violation of the contract. It is in violation of the Horse Racing Act of 1978, amended in 2000 as previously. That needs to be addressed here and not allowed to knowingly help this breaking of a federal statute. If now you're aware of it and counsel says, they have a hell of a point, then you need to deal with this. I mean, I'm concerned because I've been in horse racing since the 80s here, in the 70s and others, but we're not getting the help needed to uphold integrity of the sport, the welfare of the sport, and they're begging to just survive when we should be making rules to help it thrive. That's the duty of a commission. Okay. Thank you for your time.
Can I say one thing, please? One thing.
I just want to clarify.
I'm sorry, please.
I'm sorry, Leroy Gessman, Executive Director, HBPA. I know Mr. Nolan's very passionate on horse racing, but he did, I just want to clarify, the only thing that the HBPA, the only signal that they have not given permission for, and the permission ran out on April 4th or April 10th, I believe, is the Monarch tracks, the Monarch affiliated tracks coming into the state. We did not do anything with the export. We did not do anything with any other provider. So I just wanted to clarify that because he said all signals, and that's not true.
Well, how is it still coming in then? You don't know.
Yes, Mr. Casillas.
Would you like an answer?
I'd like an answer.
I had discussion on that very subject. I was asked what the division would be doing about the fact that the horsemen did not approve the contract Monarch signal. And based on everything I know regarding the horsemen, the Turf Paradise contract agreement for the signal, it boils down to, at this given stage, a contract dispute, which I am not going to get in the middle of. And in their contract, they have dispute resolution provisions, which they just stated to you that they're in the middle of, and they will be meeting again May 9th, I believe Mr. Alston stated. And they're following the dispute resolution agreement. And I am not going to take an action one way or the other. If they want to take it to court and the court orders that there's a stop to the signal, then I will take an action. Until then, I am not taking an action to get myself in the middle of a civil dispute, contract dispute.
Understood. Well, I think we've heard, I think I know what everybody's position on it is. I think everybody knows how I feel. I'd like to hear what my fellow commissioners think about it and then entertain a motion because it is an action item.
I'd like to think, Joe made a point about we've got a sick patient. We've got a patient having a heart attack. We're podiatrists. The legislature's a cardiac surgeon. Got to go to the legislature. I'd be happy to talk to a legislator and try to get this done, but we're not the people that can get it done. We don't know how to treat this patient. And we don't have the authority to operate on his heart. Yeah, I mean, the lobbyists need to get the legislature to propose a bill to regulate the incoming signal from all the simulcast providers.
I'll speak up. This one's a tough one for me simply because the stakeholder meetings that we've been having for the past couple of months, whether one side thinking that they're not productive and another side thinking that they are productive, I have intentionally not sat at the stakeholder tables to keep myself out of it as a chairman and only be there as a point of reference to be able to communicate in these types of meetings with my other chairman or commissioners. The problem that I see being able to self-implement a rule, send something to the governor's office, is we have brought Monarch from I shouldn't even say not working, because they already provide the signal to Arizona Downs, so they are working with Arizona Downs. We have brought them from a absolutely not working with Arizona Downs to, okay, maybe let's start a relationship before you've even run a race and offer you 5 to 6 OTBs that no one has talked about here today. There is another offer on the table to make it all one network. There is a significant amount of negotiations that need to happen in order for that to work, and I understand both parties' reservations in moving forward with that. I also understand the legislature being concerned that they have to hear an issue like this, but that is the legislature's job, is to vet these bills, understand them thoroughly, and be able to move forward one way or another. So for that reason, that's why I'm having such a difficult time moving the needle one way or another. I understand where the horsemen are coming from. I understand where all the racetracks are coming from, and there's big personalities across that table. But you know, I think we are making progress. I think the legislature has an option there, and you know, for that reason, that's why I can't push forward on my end. And after hearing the legal arguments, it's just not our bailiwick at this junction.
Rory?
I would have to agree with Chuck, and you know, I have heard a little bit of the information that's going on in the negotiations, and I've been somewhat happy with some of what's been coming out of it, and would encourage the parties. If we're in such dire straits as some say, then let's hammer out an agreement and work on this. We have made some improvement over the last several months, and I have faith in Chuck and Rudy to continue driving this home.
Okay, I need a motion. Tabor?
Well, I don't know what kind of motion. I've moved that we do nothing regarding the proposed rule change of AACR 19-2-419K.
Nothing about.
I don't know. I don't know.
So you're denying us taking action with respect to
I
it?
move we take no action regarding.
Mr. Chairman, I think what you could do, if nobody makes a motion to take action, then it's the same effect.
Well,
Okay, I withdraw my motion.
well, okay, I disagree, but if I don't have a motion and I know I wouldn't get a second, I guess that's where it stands. Okay. Let's go back up to item 1. Arizona Downs request for approval of the Lion's Den Bar and Grill in Pine Top, Arizona.
Yes, Arizona Downs submitted an application last month for a new location in Pine Top, Arizona. They submitted their plan of operations. It's been gone over. Both entities, both the owner and the bar manager, are licensed. The division recommends approval for this OTB.
Any discussion? I'd entertain a motion.
I move we approve the Lions Den Bar and Grill.
Second.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Madam Secretary.
Yeah. Commissioner Coolidge?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorey?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawless?
Yes.
Commissioner McClintock?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, item number 2, the county fair grants renamed as Burton Kruglet County Fair Grant.
I'm going to defer to the chair of this, Mr. Garay, who this came from his request. So, Roy, if you'll just kind of discuss what you were hoping to achieve by this measure.
Sure. Well, I know, Mr. Jay, you and I both were on the commission with Burton for a few years, and I just always remember every meeting him talking about the fairs, and I think he would have been so happy to see what happened this year with the fairs finally getting some grants to help out to rejuvenate that industry there. And I just thought it would be appropriate to rename the grant after him in his honor and his commitment to the county fair.
think it's a good idea. So I move we rename the county fairgrounds the Burton Cruduit County Fairground.
I will second that.
Okay, Commissioner Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner Goray,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawless,
Yes.
and Commissioner McClintock.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay,
Wonderful.
Good. Item 3, the Santa Cruz County Fair and Rodeo Association request to amend the 2019 dates.
Yes, I do believe the Santa Cruz County Fair will run either their 104th or 105th consecutive year of live racing. They have been awarded a 3-year permit, which typically you guys have awarded them 4 days per year. This is consistent of what they've done in the past, where they have canceled, although they've asked for 4 days, they've chosen to cancel the first 2 days this year, excuse me, April 27th and 29th. They will be running May 4th and May 5th, so you're just canceling the first 2 days of the event.
At their request.
At their request,
Okay.
yes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Madam Secretary.
Commissioner Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner Goray,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawless,
Yes.
and Commissioner McClintock.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried.
Okay, and a possible letter to state representatives regarding the Horse Integrity Act. I don't know where this came up.
And again, this is Chairman Gray. I'll let you take the floor.
Yes, I had a couple of people contact me. As many of you know, that there is a Horse Integrity Act bill in Washington, D.C., and I do know that there are some concerns amongst the stakeholders regarding that bill. So I wanted just to give them an opportunity to present some information. I don't know if we'll get anything out of it today, but my biggest thing would be I would encourage Senators Sinema and McSally and the other representatives in D.C. to at least reach out and talk to Rudy and Greg and our stakeholders if they show interest in this bill.
Does anyone from the Horsemen's Association want to speak?
Leroy Gessman with the HBPA, and I'll be up here for this topic as the national president of the HBPA. Just to give you a little background on this bill, this thing this is probably the 4th year it's been introduced in federal legislation. Representative Barr from Kentucky is the person that presents it every year. It's a bill the Jockey Club is pushing. There's a lot of issues with this bill that the horsemen and especially the horsemen in Arizona, as well as across the country, cannot accept. So I would, and Senator McSally is considering sponsoring and introducing the same bill on the Senate side. And several of us have written letters to her already. Let me tell you a little bit about the bill and why it's out there. One of the problems is states like Arizona. Arizona has 5 that I can just write down, national rules that we're not enforcing. And I know there's several medication rules we're not enforcing because of what we've been talking about all morning, the moratorium on making new rules. And this, I have talked with Greg. Greg goes to his ARCI meetings every year, a couple times a year. He gets new information, new things to make rules on, and he can't make rules. Arizona's the only state in America that doesn't have third-party leases. The only state in America. They were the only state in America that don't have state vets doing pre-race exams every morning of every horse. And we still don't have that. Thankfully, Arizona Downs and Jerry Sims at Turf Paradise have stepped up and paid vets to inspect the horses. And you see what has happened with the fatality rate. It's dropped dramatically this year after we started doing this. Anyway, that's why the Jockey Club wants the federal law to make the federal legislation to enforce all these rules. There's two major things that the horsemen can't support in this law. One of their things is no race day medication. Arizona tracks, we run for very low purses, and we have some of the lower quality animals. Obviously, none of our animals can run in graded stake races. None of our animals can run in the Kentucky Derby next week. We have horses that come here from California that can't run in California. And for sure, none of these horses would be able to run without Lasix. Lasix is not a performance-enhancing drug. It helps the welfare of the horse. In fact, it'd be cruel to the horse to force him to run without Lasix. So that's one big issue the National HBPA has with this law. The other thing is turning testing, all testing for all racetracks in America will get turned over to USADA. USADA has no experience in equine athletes. They couldn't even catch Armstrong. He had to turn himself in. You know, it's just they don't have the capability of doing that many tests that the equine for the whole United States. It just plus the other thing, they estimate the cost to the track owners, the cost of doing these tests that we currently do would triple or quadruple with USADA doing. So for those two reasons, I would encourage you to write a letter to McSally and ask her to at least come talk to the industry people one-on-one. Our national lobbyists they're trying to get in and talk to her staff. But if we had support of the commission of taking all of it, of supporting not passing this legislation, the horsemen would appreciate that. Any questions?
I'll move to
Thank you.
write a letter of support for the commission to send to both senators.
To oppose the act.
Yep, to oppose the act.
Second.
Okay. Commissioner Coolidge?
Yes.
Commissioner Garay?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawless?
Yes.
Commissioner McClintock?
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries to oppose the act.
Okay, moving on to information reports. Greg, safety?
Yesterday I was up at Arizona Downs taking a look at some of the activity up there. There is a ton of work being up there, and there still is a ton of work still to be done, but they are working continuously. I believe sometimes around the clock, because every time I go up there, something new happens. I do believe that they will allow personnel back there to start getting the barns ready next week, and then the horses come shortly thereafter. We're looking forward to being up before the summer and seeing how well they do. There's no concerns at this point in time with any of the backside. When I was back there, they had individuals putting smoke detectors and fire extinguishers setting up, so it's a different backside than it is at Turf Paradise, in which that backside has very little asphalt. It's mostly dirt, and so they will have, other than rain that will come with the summertime, I do believe we'll have a very safe backside on that. Not much with Turf Paradise on this. I've been doing several things. We've got the county fairs, so I haven't been out there that much this month. I am aware that as a condition of the permit, I do believe there was talk about bridle pass, as well as some work to be done on the training track. So over the summer, we'll be monitoring that. We've worked with Turf Paradise, Vince Francia, who's been very open to getting some of that stuff done, so we'll monitor that progress.
Thanks, Greg. Budget Director.
Well, I don't have too much to report to you today. I don't know if some of you may know this, but the department does not currently have a CFO. We lost the CFO. We have a new one coming on board May 6th. I can tell you that we're close to the end of our appropriation, but I can't give you an exact budget, how we're doing to start off with Arizona Downs. But as soon as we get that CFO in place, I will have more details, and I will provide you an update if we're in the wet.
Okay.
All right.
I hope not to get an update.
Yeah, you're right.
I think we already did the legislative update. I noticed they left. So moving on, possible quorum for Derby Day at Turf Paradise on Kentucky Derby Day. I know I plan to be there.
Which is May 4th.
May 4th.
2019.
All these guys know when the Kentucky Derby
I have to
is.
put it on the record because somebody who may not know that needs to know that. Thank you.
I hope to be there.
I won't be there.
And I won't be there.
Well, that takes care of that. No quorum.
Commissioner Coolidge and Commissioner Zoe are going to be up at our place.
There you go.
There you go. You know what? Joe raises a good point. I think we may end up with a quorum for your opening day. When is it? The 24th?
May 24th. Yes.
You beat us to it. That would be on next month's meeting agenda, and it will be posted on our website, so we do have that covered. Thank
Okay.
you.
Because I plan on going to that. All right. Permittee reports. American Greyhound.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Arizona Downs. Anything new that we haven't heard?
Well,
I was heartened by Greg's safety report on you guys. I guess you're.
I missed it.
Yeah,
I was out talking.
He was complimentary that you guys are working around the clock to get it open.
That's Joe Jackson again with Arizona Downs, and I just wanted to say it's everything's looking great up there. Dennis Moore is close to finishing up the track. We're trying to pick a horse, a jockey. We're going to have the photo op for the maiden run around the newly constructed track. I'm obviously new to this game, but if you haven't met Dennis Moore, you ought to somehow meet him. The guy's a character. He's just a joy to work with. He's a delightful guy. So anyway, the track's coming along. May 24th is opening day, as you said. I want to extend an invitation to Jerry, Bibbs, and Dave to come up and give me the heads up when you're going to be there. I'll give you the nickel tour and show you everything that Ann has done there. Ann's just done an incredible job. Also, we've gotten a ton of positive feedback on our I call him the Harry Carey of horse race announcing. We landed Michael Rona as our announcer for the season, which
is awesome.
Yeah, that's what everybody's been relaying to us, and so I really look forward to working with him too. But that's our update. Everything's coming along. The beer's cold.
There you go.
The track's looking good, and hope to see you all up there. Thank you.
County fairs. Rito.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Tucson Greyhound. Turf.
Good luck in the Derby, Commissioner. Turf is good to go.
Okay. Now, optional industry stakeholder association updates, not to exceed 3 minutes, please. I think everybody's weary. Arizona Counties Racing Association. Arizona Greyhound Association.
It's at my house watching my greyhound.
There you go. Arizona Quarter Horse Racing.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Arizona Thoroughbred Breeders.
Commissioner, Director, Debbie Zimmerman, Arizona Thoroughbred Breeders. Last Friday we had our banquet, and we were very happy with our festival. We were saddened not to be able to tell our members that the bill had not passed. So we are really hoping that we can get something done to help Arizona Downs, to help Turf Paradise, help all of our horsemen. We need survival. So that's it. Thank you.
Agreed. Okay, I'm praying. Is the Jockeys Guild here?
We skipped.
HPPA.
Oh, I'm sorry. Boyd, anything, or Leroy, anything to add? I think you.
That's fine.
I love you guys, but I've seen enough of you. Summary of current events affecting the Horse Racing Commission. I think we heard from Aiden enough. Identification of matters to be placed on future agendas. Calls to the public, I think we've gone through everyone.
I didn't have anybody signed it yet.
Yep.
Let me make a final comment.
Yep.
Do you have to state your name?
Brian Murray for Arizona Downs. I guess it wouldn't be surprising to tell you that we're disappointed by this body's lack of action. Right on the homepage of your website, you say that your job is to regulate this industry. But in this commission hearing today, you say you can't. So you have to tell these people in this room, what is the purpose of this commission if you can't do what it says on your webpage? Well, we're befuddled. And to the furtherance of this notion that we're going to have a successful stakeholder process, when one of the main stakeholders isn't even there, I've never seen that before. And now you said we can't possibly take any action? Do we really think anybody on the other side is going to actively participate in this? When today, Monarch hasn't attended any of the stakeholder meetings. So I would urge you to reconsider between now and the next meeting what it is as your role as regulators is. Is it to regulate, or are your hands completely tied and there's no purpose? Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian, do you know if Monarch has been invited?
The person who called the stakeholder process is sitting right here.
Is that a question?
Has Monarch been invited to any of the stakeholders?
Not yet, no.
Thank you.
Okay. I know I am out of town, but at my nephew's graduation, but the next regular commission meeting is scheduled for 10 a.m. on Thursday, May 9th, 2019, in this room, and is subject to change based on a quorum. I will not be there. I'll be in Tennessee for my nephew's University of Tennessee graduation.
Okay, well, I still have a quorum at the moment, so we will work with that. And anything else?
Second.
Good. Okay. Commissioner Coolidge?
Yes.
Commissioner Goreg?
Most definitely.
Commissioner Lawless?
Yes.
Commissioner McClintock?
Yeah.
Okay, the time is 11:50, and we have adjourned. 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 Adjourned.